What worries me so much is the latest press release, the joint press release by the Christian Council of Ghana and the Ghana Catholic Bishops Conference. Because these are two very big Christian organizations. Right. And for them to have just given their endorsement meant that there's a certain solidarity of the Christian community against the Muslim community in Ghana.
Well, we'll get that press statement to read it out.
For me, that is very dangerous. It has made nonsense of all this long period of claim that Muslims and Christians here in Ghana are tolerant of each other. I think it has been just the facade.
Do you think it's been a facade?
I think, in my view, but I have become convinced that we have not been honest with ourselves in the claim that we are really, our cooperation with the community, I'm saying from the mind.
On this occasion, I'm just hoping that, Sheikh, you are wrong on this. On this occasion, I'm just hoping, because I don't want to believe that it has been a facade.
It's been a facade because, look, for the Christian community not to even show a little consideration. And even,
you mean by the representations?
Even in the presentation, no reference was made to the plea of the National Chief Imam, who has entered into the church on 2 occasions, entered into the church to change a certain perception. You see, what I'm getting the impression is the faster we are trying to de-radicalize the Muslim youth, the greater the Christian community is becoming extremist in the way they are dealing with this matter. That's my impression.
Hello, our wonderful viewers, and welcome to another issue of GH Reflections. As usual, my name is Dr. Godfrey Asante. I am an assistant professor at San Diego State University. Yet again, we are interrupting our usual programming, which is supposed to be on the education series, but we are interrupting that to bring you another to introduce another issue on religious tolerance in Ghana. As some of you are aware, there has been several discussions around religious intolerance, especially even with the video that we just watched. So we wanted to take up this issue this week, which is religious intolerance in Ghana. As usual, to help me engage in this discussion, we have Dr. Amanda Odoi, who is a lecturer at University of Cape Coast in Ghana, and we also have Bashiru, who is a social activist in Ghana. So to start off with the discussions for today. So the first question goes to Bashiratu, actually. Sorry, I mispronounced your name earlier. Which is, what do we mean by religious tolerance in Ghana? So Bashiratu, if you can go ahead with answering that question for us. What do we mean by religious tolerance in Ghana?
Good evening, everyone. And thank you for having me again tonight. I'm becoming a regular panelist on the show. And I must say, I'm also enjoying it, actually. So when we talk about religious tolerance, I think in simple terms, we'll talk about the peaceful coexistence of people of diverse faiths and beliefs and that will include all the Abrahamic religions, plus our traditional indigenous religions. And that also exists in terms of constitutionality, where our constitution also guarantees and also ensures that individuals have the right to freedom of association, to belong to any religion of their choice, and to also be able to practice their religion. And also the recognition, and respect for persons who hold different faiths or religion from what we have to be citizens as much as possible, as is enshrined in our different laws in Ghana.
Thank you so much for that. I hope you're still with us here. Based on that, I actually do want to hear from Dr. Odoi. So the person who was speaking in the video earlier talked about this facade of unity, or I would maybe call it a facade of religious tolerance. And I thought that was a very powerful word that he used in his talk. So maybe let's reflect on what he just talked about for a second, to sort of refresh our memory a little bit, or to sort of break it down a little bit for us as well. Has religious tolerance been a facade? I think this is a very interesting question as well.
Yeah. I think I would say that we try as a country to seem tolerant of other people's religious beliefs and practices, but in reality, that's not necessarily what we do. Right from the church to our streets, on radio and all that, our discussion points to the fact that the most important religious practice or form of religion that we acknowledge in the country is the Christian religion. Yes, we are the Christian religion is the most dominant group, and so you just get to have a number of people aligning more to that form of religious beliefs. But then how we tolerate, how we discuss these issues in schools, what programs people attend and all that, points to the fact that the Christian community wishes everybody is Christian in the country. So if you're a Christian, that's when you matter. That's when you're seen more of as a human being, somebody that will go to heaven, and that's more Christ-like, and not even thinking about the fact that even amongst us, we do worse things than what we think other religious groups. Pastors will stand on the pulpit and preach and compare Christians to Muslims, and how Muslims are strict to their beliefs and practices, but then will turn around and say that they have to win souls and bring them to the church. But the very people that you're saying they respect their values and practices are the very people you think that they are not the rightful people for us to associate and belong to. So yes, indeed there's a facade, because you also think about the fact that they read the Bible. For me, this is my perspective. All these things probably start from the Bible, where Abraham gave birth to Ishmael, and Ishmael was out of wedlock, and Ishmael is going to contend with Isaac, who is the Christian child and who is the child of God. So there's been like some series of hostility right from reading the Bible, how we interpret the Bible, on which people are supposed to. So yes, we tend to, if we are just friends with them, it's okay. But when it comes to our religious beliefs and practices, we tend to think that we need to change them. They have to align with what we believe in. It is to the point that some families, it comes in marriages. People will not allow inter-religious marriages. Christians not mind Muslims, because sometimes it's a taboo for you to even mention that. So it makes you understand. And then there are some people that will not even want to eat with people that are of a different religious group. Yeah, you don't want to associate with them. You can't be friends with them. And we demonize other religious groups in so many ways. Yeah, so indeed we are not as tolerant as we try to look, and especially when we are having national programs and we say, okay, there will be a Christian prayer, there will be a Muslim, there will be a church. Yeah, those are just for the show, and just to say, okay, try to represent the whole country and respect the various groups that are within it. But when it comes to our practices, they are far from what we try to put across as a country.
So, and this goes to maybe between you and Bashir, you can answer this question. But I mean, I remember growing up, you would have, the Muslim neighbors who would, and we I would say we had some fluid relationships, right? It wasn't this tense, and sometimes it would get this tense sometimes. But I think my question then is, what has changed? I mean, has something changed in the past few years? And what maybe in your own perspective is it? So who wants, maybe Amanda, if you want to maybe, kind of take a jab at this one too, but has something changed? I mean, economically, politically, because I mean, it was bad, but I don't think it wasn't this tense. So maybe in our own sort of, conversation, and Bashir is still with us, I guess, right? Bashir too. Okay. So, I mean, how do you think, what has changed, I think? Has anything changed in the past few years that might be causing this even more tense? Yeah.
I personally will associate that to our exposure to other cultures, especially media, social media, and not hearing about how other countries engage religious minorities, where we hear how we represent Muslims and other religious groups. So people are they're feeling more entitled and tending to think that, okay, what we've been doing all this while is right. And so we can go ahead. For me, I feel in the last year, between 2020 and 2021, we've become quite intolerant about other religious groups, especially the Muslims. But it doesn't mean it's new, because especially when you take our schools and reporting on religious intolerance in the country, it dates back even till like when we're in school, like as kids and all that. So these things have been there, where you're supposed to practice the Christian faith if you are in a Christian school, but you hardly hear of same things happening in other religious groups. You also, because in 2008, for instance, I think it was on a Muslim student jumped to his death in Addis Ababa because they were forcing him to go to school and all that. So, but then it's becoming more rampant now because we are getting exposed to other culture and how people are going about their level of intolerance. So we are getting a bit extreme, much more than we used to be as a country.
No, that's really good point. Bashiratu is with us. Bashiratu, are you here? Or maybe not?
Okay, yes, I'm here.
Perfect. So the question that I asked earlier when we lost you was, what has changed now? I mean, previously, or in in our past, or in maybe barely 5-7 years ago, I mean, there seems to be some sort of fluidity in the relationship between the Muslim community and the Christian community in Ghana. But it seems like, in the past 5, maybe I would say 5 years now, some things have been changing. So what do you think has shifted or changed now?
Well, basically, I would say that what has changed now is the fact that due to advocacy and a lot of education and sensitization that has been going on, people are speaking up. Initially, people were enduring more and decided to just let go. But now we are getting to hear about the discriminatory act and the exploitation and marginalization of people of minority faith, because victims have had enough and victims have been educated and sensitized on their own right, and now they see that there are avenues where they can actually report cases of abuse. So more victims are actually speaking out against all these injustices because they know that they can actually get justice served them. What has also changed is the fact that for some time now, this has become an issue that we are all openly discussing. No, gone are the days when you would not talk about issues of religion, because once you bring it up, somebody thinks you want to just distract the peace we've been enjoying this in this country. And people also were of the belief that people were actually making stories up. Several years back, I have also gone through the same thing. The difference is I never acquired recently when I learned so much about my own rights to the freedom of association and also my religious right as enshrined in different laws and policies of this country. So we've also had students, being insistent on their rights. We are brought up to just respect authority and not question. That has also been one of the bane of all these issues that we are discussing, that when an elder tells you to do something, just do it, don't ask any questions. But now things have changed. So it is one of the reasons why we have more people also owning up and talking about the situation
right
as well.
Right. No, thank you so much, Bashirta, for that.
I went to a school, a private school, in my basic education days, where we go for worship on Wednesdays and Fridays. And I remember very well one of our pastors in Ghana. He used to be the one who will come and be doing that Holy Ghost, what do you call it, that deliverance thing, and they will be pushing you. So he tagged me away on several occasions, but I never cared. I never bothered because I never fall down. So I think that the difference is people understanding what their rights are enshrined in the Constitution, and people being ready, to speak out, damn the consequences and whatever might happen.
No, but Bashirta, thank you so much for that. I think both you and Amanda are saying what you're saying here. What I'm hearing is that more people are actually speaking up more. So maybe going back to the comment that the speaker in the video was saying, that perhaps the sense of fluidity in the relationship between the Muslim community and the gay community was a facade. Maybe perhaps is just because more people were speaking up, and now people are actually speaking up. So and also, again, for our viewers, you can join the conversation on Facebook. So please, type in your comments and questions, and we would definitely answer them for you here. So we will move on to another question as we wait for our third panelist, and I want you to hang on. We do have a third panelist who will be joining us, and they have an experience that they want to share about religious intolerance. So hang on. We will definitely get them to speak with us when they are ready. So maybe I want to switch on to the next question as we get the conversation going here. And again, you can still join us on Facebook. Post your comments, post your questions, so that we can talk about it. I think my next question, in the context of Africa, in huge context, and the world, is Ghana a religiously tolerant sort of country? So very similar to the question that we mentioned earlier. Very similar to the questions that we mentioned earlier. Is Ghana a religious country? But before we do that, we're going to watch a short. We're going to play some videos. And then come back, and then based on the videos, it would help us to sort of inform the conversation that we're having. So hold on and hang in there as we play these videos.
How about you? Do you always dress like this?
Yes.
So when you're in the house, what kind of work do you do?
I help my mother to wash our clothes and bowls. I sweep the room and I mop the room.
And when you're doing that, you wear this. You wear your hijab.
Yes.
And when you dress and you're going to school in the morning, you dress like this?
Yes.
What happens when you get to the school?
When I get to the school, I'll move the hijab and put it inside my bag, and I'll sit down and I learn. If it is closed, and I'll move it inside my bag and I'll wear it.
Why don't you wait to go to class to go and learn?
Because they'll seize it.
They'll seize it. Have they ever seized it before?
Yes.
By who? Teachers or seniors?
Teachers.
So, I think we might have another video. Is this the other video?
It went viral after 2 Rastafarian students were denied admission to one of the best schools in the country, Achimota School to be precise.
Directed to a chapel, I think Agri Chapel, but it was a chapel where the people wait. And that's the very same place they present the items they've been asked to buy. And when I got there with my staffs and everything, one of the mistress, she was packing the presented items into the cars. And she told me she wants nothing to do with me because of my dreadlocks. So I should pack my stuffs and everything, sit away from her stuffs. That's all the items collected. I should keep away from that place. And then she also said with the dreadlocks, they will not accept anything. So it's either I'm getting it all at that very same place. It's either I'm getting it off and coming to Achimota, or that's it. But Achimota will no way accept it. Getting the first choice, Achimota was one of the very schools I've always wanted to school at. And so I was expecting they would just accept. But then thinking of bringing in the hair problem and telling me because of your hair, we quit, we push aside academics and everything and just focus on the dread first. I was really bit shocked and surprised.
I know that we have to release this country, so everybody have right to worship whatever he worship at. This time, I don't know what is happening. I need for you to talk to me, allow me to go to the school.
Thank you so much for these videos, and again, thanks for watching us. This is GH Reflections. Before we go ahead and try to answer the next question, we do have a panelist who also wants to contribute to this discussion. So I will just invite the panelist. This particular panelist has decided to be anonymous, so we will keep them anonymous. All right, so please go ahead and share your experiences or experience with religious intolerance in Ghana.
Good evening, everyone. I'm calling from Accra, Ghana.
Okay.
Well, growing up in Ghana hasn't really been, it has been a good one. And most part of my life, I spent most of my school days in the religious boarding school. I mean, I went to a religion, I am a Muslim, so from the upper part of my primary school, primary 5 to SHS, I went to a Muslim school. Yes. So we have a way of dressing, and anytime.
Sorry. Sorry. Can you increase your volume a little bit? It's your voice is a little low. Is it possible to increase the volume of your?
All right. Sure. A moment.
All right. Okay. We're just going to go ahead and wait a little bit for our panelists as they adjust their mic so that we can hear them a little better. So just bear with us as we wait for just a few seconds for this particular panelist.
As a private candidate.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that.
In one of the schools in Accra. Yeah, so as after the first paper, the invigilators were changed, and the second invigilator that came in, before we were allowed to enter into the exams hall, we were searched. And this particular invigilator refused me to enter because I had my hair covered. She claims it's inappropriate to dress that way to an examination hall. And I was a little bit startled because I've been wearing this all my life. I've written tons of exams. It wasn't the first time I was writing as a private candidate. And you telling me it's not allowed in an exam hall because the WAEC rules against it. But I've written with my hijab as a WAEC candidate before. So why now? I was restrained, and I was even asked to leave the area where the exams was being written and only come back after taking off my hijab.
So I think we missed just a bit of the story. Can you give us the beginning part of that particular story? So this is I'm guessing this is during one of the WAEC exams. Can you sort of give us the first part of the testimony one more time, because we missed it because of the link here. The connection was low.
All right, so the paper was divided into two parts, the first and the second part of it. The first part, the invigilator I met allowed me to go in. But then the second part, the invigilator said it wasn't allowed. I mean, they had a switch of invigilator, and she said it wasn't allowed for me to wear my veil because it's against the rulings of the WAEC constitution. I mean, she used the word. I can't really rephrase. I can't really remember.
Okay, thank you so much for that particular testimony. I mean, I think based on this testimony, based on this experience, and also the videos that we just watched, it seems like part of the contention here largely is around what to wear on your body. The fact that Muslim women cannot put on a hijab, the traditionalists cannot put on a cap, the Rastafarian cannot keep long hair. So perhaps maybe let's talk about given all of these examples, was or is Ghana still really, in some sense, a religious tolerant country? I mean, the Constitution definitely guarantees it, but it seems everything is sort of to the contrary of that. What is what do we think? I mean, this is quite. I mean, for me, it isn't much of a. It's not a gray area. It is blatant discrimination. So I think it's very interesting seeing that, but it also feels like part of the contention is what to wear and how to present your body, like how to present yourself as a citizen of Ghana. I mean, what do we think, Amanda? If you want to take this one, and then we can get to Bashiratu.
I think we've tried to establish from the beginning that we are not that as tolerant as we think we are, and this level of religious intolerance, it does not really exist just across religions, but even within religions. So the Pentecostals versus the Adventists versus the Jehovah Witnesses and all that, and the extent to which we tolerate their practices amongst others. So we are not really that tolerant. And yes, it mostly comes along the lines of clothing, what you can wear, what you cannot wear, what programs you must attend or cannot attend. I remember when Valley View started, and I think the Adventists that were going there had to take off their earrings, and it was a huge discussion as to
right.
and all that. And when the Islamic University also came, whether Christians wanted to put on, if they asked them to put on hijab, would they? Like, so it's a whole lot of things. It's just, I think we use religion as a way of policing and manipulating what people can wear and cannot wear, and it comes really across. It comes up strongly in this. Levels of intolerance. And so when it comes to what you can wear and cannot wear, it also has this gender perspective. It's basically women and what they can wear and what they cannot wear, how they can fight themselves and cannot. When it comes to the men, is what sort of practices they can engage in and all that. So we are looking at religious intolerance and all, but then it also has this gender dynamics within those religious practices, like what is accepted along the lines of women and what is not accepted. And to think that sometimes when they're raising these issues, even people of the same religious group fight back and think that people that are trying to spearhead their awareness and the need for people to accept other people's religions are overdoing things. I think for Bashira too, when she started the hijab identity, I could see other religious. I had a private chat with somebody, and I was telling him how I think that she's doing well, and then the person seemed like, okay, she's female. She shouldn't have been the one that was spearheading this. It should have been a man's place, because women are supposed to be quiet and not be seen and all that. And when I was in undergrad, for instance, I also had this lady. She was deeper life, and then they were not supposed to relax their hair. And then she was with us, so she did. And actually, the people in her chest started hating us as friends because they thought we spoiled her. We made her start to wear short skirts, and then she was supposed to be covered up and all those kind of things. So the policing is along the lines of gender, along the lines of what you can wear, what you cannot do as male or female. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think what you are pointing out a really important part of the discussion, that somehow the principle here seems to be shifting, right? So at Valley View, there wasn't this much conversation. I mean, people were obviously angry, but they demanded that the school actually abides by the constitution of the country. So, but in this case, in the case especially of the Muslims, there is a complete flip, right? That no, this is not the case about the constitution at this point. So let's have Bashira I would love to hear your opinion about this as well, with regards to for instance. So maybe let's move on to the next question, because I think that the next question sort of digs in depth to this issue. What are the effects of this? So what are the effects of religious intolerance in Ghana at this point, and using videos as maybe, for instance, a backdrop to see, where the depth of this issue.
I think that the first thing I would mention as the effects would be in terms of exclusion. All of us are shouting to a developmental agenda that benefits all Ghanaians, irrespective of their religion or their gender, of their sex and everything. But we end up finding ways of making sure that these developmental agenda does not.
I think we're having a hard time hearing Bashira too. I know you are really coming up. You are bringing up a very important part of this discussion, which is the developmental aspect of it. Are you still here?
Yes, sure.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, we are not able to hear you. You are breaking up quite often. So I do want to see if there are any questions on our Facebook poll, on our Facebook Live. I do see Eric is saying, I think the issue of religious tolerance in Ghana is like racism. Those who are at the receiving end of it have, for the most part, suffered in silence, and even when they speak out, we cast doubts on their complaints. So I will come back to Eric. But Shiratu, go ahead.
I'm back.
Yes, okay. Go ahead.
So, and also, so the first thing I would mention is the issue about religious, in terms of the exclusion that some people face, people who are in the minority religions. The other effect is, in the end, we do not end up having policies and legislations, that benefits everyone, because one, you are also going to end up having some people not sitting at the table when serious decisions are being made for everybody. So just a small section of Ghanaians are going to be the ones who are going to make the decisions for themselves. So you have policies and legislations that do not reflect the needs of especially vulnerable groups, because they were not represented and didn't participate in the whole process of developing these legislations or policies. Then we are going to have a system that promotes segregation, which is not the best. My challenge with all these issues about religious minorities and the discrimination they face has been with people who one would think are very much educated. They have been exposed. Some of them have actually had the opportunity of studying outside the shores of Ghana and seeing how things are done in other countries. Right. And they're talking about, if they can't, they should go to their schools. We are promoting segregation, and all of us know what happened in countries like the US between the whites and the blacks. Is that what we want to see in Ghana, where all Muslims tend to go to Muslim schools and Christians go to Christian schools, and Muslims, in the end, are we sure that when all of us finish university, after we have gone to our various schools, everyone is going to have a job that has been created by a Muslim or a Christian in the first place? I'm sure today there are a lot of companies that are owned by either Muslims or Christians, or even people who believe in our indigenous traditional religions. Are we going to take it there too? So it is not good for us to promote segregation in any way, because everything benefits all of us in the end.
Right.
Then is also the issue around politics. And I keep telling people that in this country, politics runs everything, including in our homes. Because for every decision, democracy prevails. When decisions need to take place in my house, for instance, I just don't get up and then say that this is it. No. Most of the time, we need to have discussions and agree, taking into account what other people within the family think about the same thing we're trying to discuss. But how do we promote this when we find ourselves in settings where we are consistently telling people that you do not belong here, you need to go here, you are not supposed to be here? And this is a conversation that people are extremely comfortable having on national platforms, right, even in the media, and we are not even shutting them down. I had a colleague in the office quite recently when we were having this conversation who actually told me that, school. I didn't say anything because I knew what my response was going to be to her. In the next few days, like 4 days, she needed my help with something. I told her, I said, Christopher, because in your office, it means that me is that the way we want it to be? And knowing Ghana and how we have even projected ourselves to the rest of the world as a peace-loving people, as a country with the best when it comes to religious tolerance and everything, this is not the image that we want to be letting people have going forward in this country, because it does not help us. It defeats the existence of the National Peace Council. Right. Because in the National Peace Council is a representation of all religious bodies. So if you agree at that level that representation matters and we can coexist in any space that we have, why is it difficult to translate this, into our institutions? And mind you, membership of these National Peace Council includes persons from the Methodist churches and other and the Catholic bishops and others. That is why Sheikh mentioned that this religious tolerance we've been talking about is not what it is, because he has been a secretary to that council for some time, and he has been a member. And in 2019, when we were having the hijab campaign, there are conversations that we had that, it is difficult to even mention them now as I speak, because they were not the best of conversations. And there are instances where media houses wanted to interview us, and they were warned by certain individuals in Ghana that they should not grant us the platform to talk. I myself had a face-off with the police, who told me plainly that Saudi Arabia for Musikana Modebe distribuye wa Ghana hasi. Ghana yes Saudi Arabia. Some person say hijab amunko Saudi Arabia. Yes. The office of the regional commander in Accra. So we are missing out the point of what we mean by inclusion. Even though we purport to be projecting and promoting it in Ghana, that is not it. Because once you start talking about segregation, once we start talking about exclusion based on religion, and because of my hijab, you don't allow me to go to a school or refuse me, when these schools are also being funded by government with state funds, when my money is inside, my taxes, my family taxes, when it's just to paying taxes, nobody asks me whether I use hijab or not. Nobody asks me my religion. It is deducted according to the percentage and according to the calculation that is supposed to be used. Why does it get to when I need to enjoy something that is meant for all of us? For people to ask me questions about my religious identities and how it's supposed to be, what is going to be used to determine how I benefit or I do not benefit from anything. And this in terms of the politics that I was talking about, we have a vice president who is a Muslim, a president who is a Christian. Do we say the vice president should only be attending to the needs of Muslims? Meanwhile, according to the constitution, the vice president has a role that responds to the needs of all Ghanaians. There's no segregation, there's no discrimination, there's no, in terms of who you respond to as a leader in Ghana. So why do we want to build this with our children and then have them with an orientation that will end up having us be like countries like Nigeria when we clearly see what they are happening? And if we are not careful, we only pray and hope that this does not generate into an opportunity, for extremists to come and take advantage of in this country, because the peace that we have in this country, and it is true, people have sacrificed for it, people are still sacrificing for it. It is not something we should give away easily because of the ego of people or because people think they are intolerant of others' faiths.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much, Bashira. There's some very key points here that I do want to emphasize, that you mentioned that the effect of all of this is that there is a lack of representation, and we all know the result of that when there is a lack of representation, and then eventually the system sort of produces segregation. And with the example you just gave about your coworker saying, "Oh, and mungo a criminal," so that idea that somehow there is this group of people who are absolutely, completely separate from us, and I think it goes back to Eric's point in the on Facebook, and he's saying that this sort of mimics the logics of racism, and I think it's very. The similarities cannot be overlooked. It's quite similar in some sense. Our anonymous panelists, we would like to actually also ask, if you're still here, some of what was the impact of that experience writing an exam? I mean, you just wanted to write an exam, and you were being interrogated about what you're wearing and why you're wearing it. So what was the impact, personal impact? So I mean, yes, we've talked about the structural impact, but let's talk about the personal impact of this. What was the impact of that experience for you?
Okay, so it was literally about questioning my identity. Because first of all, it's like I don't have a right to the way I dress or how I want to live. Even though it's stated in the Constitution on the rights, the duties and roles of a citizen, someone in authority has something to say like otherwise. So personally, I felt it was like it made me feel like I didn't belong. And I had a lot of questions, but right now it's
well, thanks so much for sharing that. I mean, this feeling of not belonging to a country that you were born in, and somebody who represents an institution in that country is telling you that you cannot be who you are. You cannot, based on a right guaranteed under the Constitution, you are being stripped of that. I can totally resonate and see how you will feel that you don't belong. So given all of this, we do want to talk about how do we collectively confront this sort of not necessarily new but emerging overt religious intolerance. So how do we collectively confront this? So we do have a video that we want to watch. So let's play the video first, and then we can come back and talk about how do we collectively confront this.
Christians are so intolerant. You want to say, you want to say when you're Christian, oh, as a one canipa, as a what dear. Monty Yantin, Sanko phone into Akosi Monty near which is very bad. And it be because you see how are other religions is you respect Christianity.
I don't know that about Christians. When I come and say more.
Oh, no, come on, let's be real. Christopher, you will subai be a say. So if you're not a Christian, just say you are less human. Which is very terrible, like so bad. Because Christ only made me just soft, but me just what I say about some young Kosiasum.
So this is a very typical example of the limits and also the where we are today in terms of religious tolerance in Ghana. So the question then here is, we do have another video. I think,
So that's why we need to step back and ask ourselves, what is the school? The school is an environment that allows learning to occur. It should be non-threatening. So coercion of any kind should not be tolerated. The school is a place for children to learn to tolerate, to respect diversity. Okay, and all of these are very important. They are the soft skills that we require in our world today. Understanding, respect for diversity, respect for different opinions, acceptance for things that are not familiar with us. So the broader picture should also guide what it is that we do.
Okay, so we would also watch one more video before we answer the question.
The schools have evolved and adapted their practices to suit the times, and I would urge that we do not turn them into the places to fight ideological and religious battles.
So as we have watched in these videos, clearly I do really like Professor Jane Nana's comments that education, for instance, is a space where we learn how to be tolerant. I would say I have personal experience. I'm sure most of us have personal experiences with that, with that particular friend, maybe in elementary school all the way even to university, right? Even in our university dormitories or rooms. I mean, you do definitely learn how to tolerate other people's behaviors. So on a very larger note, I think the sort of growing explicit expressions of religious intolerance it's a serious issue. So how should we collectively confront this issue? In addition to the comments that we've heard from, for instance, Professor Jane and the current president of Ghana. So Bashira, too, if you want to start this, and then Amanda can take over after. Okay, so maybe we don't have Bashirati right now. Amanda, what do you think? How should we collectively push back? How should we collectively resist religious intolerance at this point?
I think it first has to start with us as individuals. We have to respect the fact that people have choices, and they knew there were other options before they chose what they have decided to go with, because there are people that are born into other religions and still change across. But sometimes because we are so intolerant, even when our children want to move at those very young ages, we resist. So we just have to respect the fact that people have made choices, and that's what they want. If somebody wants to go to hell, let that person go to hell. That's not your problem. You're not the one that's supposed to monitor. And then at the institutional levels, I think we also have to respect that. We have to let people understand, because this level of hostility and intolerance starts right from home. Even before you get to go to school, you are told that Muslims are like this, and so you don't. And so it's something we learn as part of our socialization. So we need to change our messages. We need to change how we speak about the various groups, and respect the fact that that's what people want to do. The best you can do, if you think you should preach to them, after you're done, you move on. You can't force people. We always have this saying that you can force a camel to the riverside, but you can't force it to drink. So you can't really change everybody. We have choices. We have options. We have to respect people's choices. We have to change our languages. We have to be firm on the policies, and as a president, you just can't say that schools have changed and modified their practices to make the environment inclusive, when we know very well that that's not what's existent in. So you have to enforce laws and policies that will ensure that we respect these differences. You see, we have this unfounded fear that if we allow this, then this will happen. How many children would want to go about walking around in school with caps? None. A number of them will. So with this religious, and how many parents will allow their children to lock their hairs? A lot of them won't allow it. So don't assume that as soon as you allow one person, other people will step in. And we have a number of, when you are the investee, you're allowed to do whatever you want to do with your hair. But most of the guys still walk around with their hair cut and everything. Right. So you don't have to have these unfounded fears and make it look as if we allow this thing, then this chain of reaction is what's going to happen. It's just a way we want to curtail people's rights and their beliefs and practices. So we just have to let do all these things. And then at the school levels, when it comes to, something I say, when you're collecting the school fees, you don't say this is the Muslim students' money. So
right.
This is the Christian students' money, so we are keeping it here. And so if we are going to accept the things that come with people the way they are and respect it, it's going to go a long way to help us. People are not reacting, they're not getting extreme. Right. I think there was this post on Facebook some time ago when somebody was a teacher was beheaded in France for showing Islam, and somebody posted and said that Ghana is the only place where some churches, an Assemblies of God church somewhere in Accra, I think on Fridays, vacate their space so the Muslims can pray there. And people were talking about Salah and how we share food and all that. At the individual level, when we know people that are of a different religious beliefs and practices, we love them, we respect them, because we know them truly that this is who they are, and they are not harmful. So we should just learn to know that the very same person you know that is nice but is a Muslim or is a traditionalist and won't harm you, if we send us across the same message to other people, then we know that together to become a group And so if they are not harmful, they are not going to be harmful as a group. But the way we treat them can have people fight back, and it has consequences for us. So we have to respect and understand that this has future consequences. It's not just about segregation and all that. Underpinning those ones are turbulence that might pop up someday, that we can have wars and all that.
No, thank you so much. So Jay, our anonymous panelist, do you have anything to add to what we've been talking about, which is how do we confront religious intolerance in Ghana? Is our anonymous panelist with us, Jay? Okay, well, Bashir, do you want to jump on, and then eventually we will come back to our anonymous panelists. Bashir, what do you think? What do you think can be done at this point? Yes, yes. So our anonymous panelists, if you can jump into the response. Sorry. We're going to switch back to our anonymous panelists here. So what do you think can be done? Well, we will come back to since we are having some technical difficulties. So Amanda, you said something that was very interesting that I would like us to expand it a little bit in there. So it seems like sometimes what I hear a lot is, for instance, if we allow women to keep their hair they will not study. That somehow the dreadlock is the student is not going to focus on their studies. And sometimes the way they say these things, it almost feels like this sort of big capital T truth that is a researched, or it's sort of big. It's like there isn't any factual element to it. And I think that's what I'm trying to talk about. It's like they say it as if it's actually true, but really there isn't any evidence to prove that. And we keep on saying, because I remember when I was in elementary school in Ghana, they used to say this a lot, but there is no research to back it up. And I'm hearing similar things all the time. I'm hearing very similar comments and statements all the time, and yet we don't actually hear. There isn't any new research that proves that actually keeping your hair is actually going to keep you from being successful in high school. And to a point, it's actually quite, for me, it's quite paternalistic if you think about it, because there's all this. It seems like part of the issue is you need to be presentable to others in some sense, and here presentation sort of becomes this. Have your hair short, and you need to, your face must be clear, or your hair. You know what I mean? It seems like there's always this thing about presenting your body in such a way that it will be appealing to, but it will be appealing to these folks. So our connection is good now with our anonymous panelists. So the question is, how should we collectively confront the religious intolerance in Ghana? And in the process, we can also talk about the sort of, do we need new policies? Do we need new laws to make sure that that is a possibility?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think we're losing. Are you still with us?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So the question is, how do you think we should collectively confront religious intolerance in Ghana? Okay. So I think we are I think we're losing that. Anyway, so any other Bashiratu, are you with us as well, or we've lost Bashiratu as well? No. Okay.
I think we lost it.
Okay. All right. So, Amanda, you and I at this point, and we are actually bringing this particular episode to a close. But do you have any last words in terms of how to confront religious intolerance in Ghana?
I think as a country, we are too obsessed with uniformity. We have to respect and come to the point of respecting and accepting the fact that we have a diverse population in terms of ethnicity, religious practices, and a whole lot. So we have to start putting in measures and structures. Some of these structures do not require so much of institutional changes.
Right.
So, for instance, Saturdays, we don't go for lectures, nobody dies. So if a group does not go to church on Sunday, they will not die. Even as Christians, as young as we are when we were in high school, we did not want to go to church Sunday service. We just don't want to. It doesn't have to be because they belong to a different faith. That's how come they don't want to go there. Respect the fact that people don't really want to pray. They don't want to do certain things.
Right.
And you can decide that if you're not going to church, then you're going to learn. So while people are in church service, you're in a classroom. There's somebody that's in charge. Because when you come to the university, for instance, if there's an exam, a quiz, or something like that on a Saturday, Adventists are given the priority to write the paper ahead or wait to break their Sabbath. And so we can make some of these little changes campuses for people. In the workplace, it doesn't really become. And then if somebody wants to be covered up, I thought we actually like women that cover up. So what's wrong with somebody else? That that become a problem for you.
Right.
If you're a Christian and you work with an airline, Emirates, for instance, and you feel nice covering up, why do you have a problem if you come out and somebody else doesn't want to cover up and all these things? We're just too obsessed with uniformity, and there's a need for us to break that cycle as a country in our various schools and all that.
Amanda, that brings up a really important point as well, that somehow why the need for your uniformity, right? Like there's this whole idea that somehow we all have to look the same, and right. Bashiratu is back, and I definitely would love to hear what she has to say to wrap up our episode today. Bashiratu, what do you think? How do you think we should collectively confront religious intolerance? Did we have her? No? Okay.
Our internet in Ghana will not show us, seriously.
Right. Well, unfortunately, we are not able to bring back Bashiratu or our anonymous panelists. But to wrap things up, we've run out of time, and we have to wrap things up for this particular episode. And hopefully, we can get Bashiratu's comments to eventually. Maybe on our Facebook page or something like that, where we can all have access to it. So there is comments on Facebook I do want to talk about quickly here. Guest panelists is that we must collectively rebuke, denounce, and if necessary, and this is our guest panelists here, and we were not able to have them speak, but they did put some comments on Facebook. We must collectively rebuke, denounce, and if necessary, impose sanctions and punishment on people, bodies, or organizations whose actions incite religious intolerance, irrespective of who the perpetrator is. And I think I think we do need some laws. We do need some policies as well. Thank you so much for that. So that brings us to the end of today's episode. We are glad that you joined us, and so we will see you all in 2 weeks. And have a great evening if you're in Ghana, and have a great afternoon if you are in the West, I guess.